Well, the good old days of expansion taking several months or even years to happen is gone. Everything's instant today, and certainly USC and UCLA. I heard you talking about comparing this to OU and Texas. I agree with you. This is much larger than OU and Texas. This is you're going cross country. You're getting the LA market. It's certainly not that there was any doubt, Paul, but now it's so obvious. There's a Big Two and everybody else. Forget the Power Five. It's the Big Two and everybody else. And now everybody's scrambling to get in that Big Two. And multiple sources I talked to yesterday said, look, the Big Ten's not going to stop at 16. And other people I talked to said, if you think the SEC is just going to stand pat while the Big Ten makes all these moves, you're sadly mistaken. So it'll be fascinating to see where this leaves. But I remember in Destin at the SEC spring meetings when I talked to you there, I talked to one source, and at that time there was thoughts that the SEC would have a playoff, SEC-only playoff. And I said, well, if you guys kind of expand and have your own playoff, it'll almost kind of be like the NFL versus the AFL, the old days. And this person said, you're wrong. I go, what do you mean? And they said it would be the NFL versus the USFL. So I reminded that person of that quote yesterday, and then they said, okay, well, us in the Big Ten or the NFL and everybody else is the XFL. So, this is huge for the future of college athletics, and, where it ends up, nobody knows.
Brett, let's try to look at what's realistic out there. And we know what happened yesterday. Let me start with Oregon and Washington. I'll work my way across the country because there's conflicting stories out there that they want out. There's a story out today that says Big Ten says, hold on a second, we have other fish to fry. What's your take on those two right now?
Well, certainly they are two of the biggest brands that are out there that are not currently in the Big Ten or SEC. And so that would be a possibility. Again, in the past, you would think, no way, there's a conference, east of the Rocky Mountains is not going to add Oregon or Washington, but the Big Ten showed that anything's possible. So does the Big Ten try to now get, two more teams out west to help USC and UCLA with travel and all those logistical matters? I think it's a possibility. And the fact that they say they want to stay in the Pac-12, well, of course they do. Everyone's going to say that until they leave the next day. And make no mistake, it's obvious, but USC, UCLA left because they're going to make at least double, maybe triple what they would have in media rights deals by going to the Big Ten. So I know, no offense to the Action Network, but if somebody came to me and said, we're going to triple your salary, would you listen to us? I'd say, yeah, absolutely. And that's what these schools are doing because they know what's on the horizon with NIL, pay for play with players, and they've got to go where they can make the most money.
Okay, let's move across the country, and I think this is where the dominoes start to fall. Give us the lay of the land on Notre Dame right now.
Multiple people I talked to believe, again, this is nothing I would report. I'll tell you what I'm hearing. It's not that I would report it as fact, but they strongly believe Notre Dame will end up in the Big Ten. And it's basically, everything that made Notre Dame attractive for Notre Dame as an independent is slowly falling away. Its own network deal, more money than the conferences, access to the playoff. Those things, we don't know what's going to happen with the playoff, but those things are slowly falling away. And if the Big Ten could get Notre Dame, that would obviously be huge for that conference. They've wanted Notre Dame for a long time. The biggest unknown is, and various people have given me different answers, is what exactly is the buyout with the ACC? We know the grant of rights goes through 2036, but Notre Dame's only a member in in the non-football sport. So how much does that grant of rights really impact Notre Dame? And then what would they pay to leave as a quasi-football member, even though they're not a football member? I would guess that whatever they're going to pay to leave because they are not a full member, they would make that up in 1 or 2 years in the Big Ten. So is that a consideration? I know longtime supporters of Notre Dame, people that have been there forever, say they will, I would joke that the world will end first before Notre Dame joins a conference. Well, I may have to revisit that prediction because I tend to side with those people, and I think Notre Dame will join a conference. Would the the SEC as well as anyone, Paul? Does the SEC make a run at Notre Dame? Notre Dame's going to have several options, and they're the biggest golden goose out there.
Well, Brett, I think in response to what you said, I think the SEC would probably or has already sent Notre Dame signals. If you're interested,
sure,
let us know. I mean, the SEC, the power structure. They don't go courting anyone, of course. But yeah, it is well known, though, Brett, that Greg Sankey and Jack Swarbrick are friends. They worked together a year ago on the CFP committee, and I think because of all the heat that was delivered toward them as a result of OU and Texas, their relationship grew from that. Now, we also know Greg Sankey, who is mysteriously out of the public's eye right now, or maybe not so mysteriously, is in a precarious position. So I mean, he doesn't need to call Jack Swarbrick. Jack knows where he is, and I think it's a matter of what Notre Dame wants. I agree with you. It makes all the sense in the world for them to stay in their geographical region, but I'm curious why, whenever the Big Ten has expanded in the past, Notre Dame has gone the other way, and I know the independence part, but you just think it's the fact that the money now is too good to turn down?
I do, Paul, and I think, the ACC gave Notre Dame something that the other conferences wouldn't do, and that is full membership, and you don't have to be a football member, and all you have to do is play, 4 or 5 football games a year against our league.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.